By the way, some U.S. car manufacturers, to Edward's point, beyond motorcycles, are saying this could hit them very hard at a time when auto sales are soaring. Certainly, we saw that out of Ford and the likes of Fiat Chrysler. And now the U.S. Automobile Association, among others, saying tariffs on vehicles it could bring the average price of a new car from $32,000 to upwards of $37,000. I don't know how they arrive at that or whether they're going by a sort of a general across-the-board average for everything, including SUVs to cars here. But they're worried. This goes beyond GM. This goes beyond some of the key manufacturers, Mazda and their U.S. chief indicating the same, that this is something that they don't like to see. And the fear is already unnerving some potential buyers. To Bahnsen Group CIO David Bahnsen, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, David. Also, former Dallas Fed advisor Danielle DiMartino Booth and Shaffer asset management guru on Shaffer on all of these developments. Dan, ended with you on your take and what's prompting concern among the automakers that this is going to dramatically lift the costs of their vehicles. Do you agree with that $32,000 to suddenly a $37,000 vehicle average?
Well, I agree that it's going to increase the costs. I just don't know the exact numbers. I don't know where they're coming up with the numbers, but it will be a problem. The tariff war is going to escalate because the other countries, Neil, are most of them are communist, or they're not democracies like the United States, so they're trying to protect their people. So, as far as the GM cars increasing in cost, I'm not sure that's going to be right. They're raising the tariffs in the other countries, and in fact, they should be lowering the costs to adjust for the tariffs.
David, looking at all of this, they're preparing themselves for the worst. I noticed the president has been reticent to criticize the GM and some of these other guys who've come out with these statements, not treating them, for example, like Harley-Davidson, which has already announced that it's shipping a lot of its jobs overseas. So he's not jumped on that with these guys. Why do you think?
I think that he probably wants to avoid it escalating into a narrative where it looks like the very people he has said he's doing some of this to protect and being the voice kind of is representing people that he says he wants to protect, and in fact they're the ones very disgruntled. That's a lot of what that Harley-Davidson kind of group represented. That would certainly be true of American automakers, and so I think overall this thing is getting a little bit out of control from the president. The unintended consequence and the reality of tariffs being what they are, a tax, and they are a tax on the end user of the product. That reality, I think, is creeping into the dialogue that the president has to deal with politically.
Danielle, how do you think this is playing out? Because depending on the day, the more likely it looks that, a trade war or worse is coming, the worse it does for stocks. Of late, the less likely it looks, obviously, the less likely. But many in the market seem to be expressing confidence that this president they doubted going in to handle or keep his temper in check, that he's served them well. And they're trusting him or giving him a little bit of latitude. What do you make of that?
Well, look, he's certainly not backing down. But you made a point earlier about Mazda. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce put out a study, and it was highlighted in the Wall Street Journal, that showed the states that will be affected the most by tariffs, by the trade war going forward. And lo and behold, Alabama and South Carolina were second and third on that list. Texas, of course, being number one, where I am. But if you look at Alabama and South Carolina as two examples, that's where Daimler and where BMW have their U.S. production facilities, and they're saying that they're looking at potential job cuts. I think one of the reasons that the president is rightly treading lightly is because we've had so many of these foreign car producers come into the United States, set up production facilities, and hire American workers. So again, this is very tenuous territory that he's over right now, and we hope that he doesn't overreach. American households, people who voted for Trump, are extremely happy because the last thing that he's done is back down. But I would say that he needs to really be careful here.
Well, sometimes, Dan, it sounds like me offering people dietary advice. I wouldn't go there. So when the president was talking about how unfair some of these countries are to us, and I come to discover that when it comes to light trucks, we slap 20% tariffs on those that come from abroad, we're not exactly saints on this issue. So I have to rely on averages that are put out by the various countries, their average tariffs, if you will, and how they all factor in together. We have among the world's lowest at 3.5%, touche for us, but Canada, who we're going after, like you know what, about 4.5%. So I'm wondering if we're being selective in our rage or hypocritical in our rage, and it's backfiring on us, or could.
I don't agree with that. I think that we have the lower tariffs around the world, and the other countries are raising their tariffs or have had these high tariffs preventing our goods to get in there.
But there's a 1% difference between us and Canada, then. I mean, we are going to war with these guys, our northern neighbors, for a 1% difference.
Right. Canada hasn't been an issue until recently. All right, there's global tariffs with other major counterparty traders, countries we work with. I mean, Canada just came to light recently. It's been exposed, and yes, it sounds like it's small,
for silliness.
But it's very selective.
This is a rounding error area. By all means, go after. And Danielle, that's what I'm saying. Go after China. I mean, there are blatant abuses. There are rigged economies. There are rigged currency. But you've got to have a more surgical strategy here, and I don't see it.
Well, look, listen, even going after China is going to have its own costs and its benefits. If you look at the states of Illinois, if you look at Iowa, they're massive soybean exporters to China. Half of Illinois is the largest soybean producer in the country. Half of Illinois' soybean exports last year went to China. 57% of America's soybean output last year was sold to China. And these state comptrollers are going to have real problems on their hands beginning Friday when these tariffs are implemented. And again, this is in the heartland of Trump voters. Again, I'll reiterate what I said before. We need to tread very lightly because we don't know what some of the blowback is going to be in our own communities, in our own economies.